Hello again, this is Dragonesque4 bringing you another episode of my excursions into the unknown. Today I'm bringing you episode number 4, The Ghost in the Graveyard. Now this is a true event that happened that I witnessed. And again, all my excursions into the unknown are true and I recount to you as what happened, and you can judge it for yourself however you feel like judging it. But I'm telling you what happened. Okay. Now, in the place I used to work at, I work at a different company now. That I used to work out in the suburbs. It would take me about 45 minutes to get home. By my driving route that I would take. But sometimes I would take like an alternative route, which I would cut down across on a and then go to another main street that was usually faster when I was driving. Now, the route I would take used to go next to a cemetery, and it's a cemetery I'm very familiar with because I have relatives in my buried in the cemetery myself. I'm not going to mention the cemetery name, but just because I don't want to have anybody bothering the dead and whatever, going out there to see if they can find a ghost or whatever. So I'm not going to mention the cemetery name. But it was late at night. I decided to take the cutoff, so I could get home a little faster. Now I went past the cemetery, and while I was driving, there's a fenced-off cemetery with has long, tall, the really long, tall metal pole fences, whatever, what metal rod fences. I'm not sure what they're called, but I think you get the idea where it has the large, long, tall bars that are spaced apart, and like a foot or whatever it is apart from each other. And now in the section that this event occurred in, and I'm very familiar with this cemetery, there are no perpetual flames. There are no like gas tribute flames or anything because they're not allowed in the cemetery. They don't have those in the cemetery. I was watching it and I noticed like something that looked like it was on fire on the ground. And it's hard to determine how far back it was because of the fact that perspective wise that may be either closer or further back, but it was in the area where I know there's again, like I said, there's none of this stuff in that cemetery, so there shouldn't have been anything burning on the ground. So I'm like watching it, and there's like a tiny little fire, looked like a little fire right by the ground, and at first it looked like a normal fire, like it was flicking in the breeze or whatever, but there wasn't really much breeze that night. So that I was like, I'm thinking to myself, what is that? And I keep watching it, and I'm trying not to run off the road, so, I could see, I'm like coming with my car from the back end of the cemetery going toward the front end, and I'm watching it. I'm trying not to run off the road, and there's not really any place that you could pull off, to watch it, because it didn't have like a little embankment or anything that you could actually pull your car off of, onto. So I'm watching it, and it starts getting bigger. It starts coming out of the ground, and eventually the flame, starts looking like it's kneeling. It's making a weird position where it's coming up, like with this part of it, and then it goes like bends down like that. So like the other half is going like my arm is kind of looking, and then it comes up with the top coming up again like that. So it's like an L with, so it's going up, across, and then up like that. And now it starts getting bigger and bigger. Eventually it gets to about the size of, I'd say, and again, it's hard to estimate because I don't know how far back it was, but it looks like it was about almost 8-10 feet tall. At this point, it starts forming a different look and a different color. It starts forming what looks like clouds around the edges, like grayish clouds. And then the coloration of the flame starts turning reddish at the top, so the bottom was still like yellow, and then it turns like reddish at the top, and then it gets like a purple hue around the whole thing inside the cloud. And then the clouds themselves, after from being gray, they started turning like a deep red, and they were swirling, kind of like that. And the effect looked sort of like if you've ever seen the show I Dream of Jeannie, where Jeannie comes out of the bottle, where the smoke comes up like that. It had that kind of effect. Now, at this point, when it got all these different colors and different shapes, with the clouds and whatever, at this point, it just seemed like it realized that I was watching it. It just froze because it was moving originally, from the small position to the kneeling position to the growing position. You could see it moving and undulating and whatever. And when I could feel that it knew that I was watching it. And at that point, it just suddenly froze. It stopped moving, and then it went back into the ground. It went like that really fast back into the ground. So apparently it was some kind of a spirit or ghost, that must have been coming out of the grave to enjoy a night out of fresh air or whatever. But it's a true story. I mean, it was really incredibly weird. And I've dealt with the paranormal a lot, and I've had a lot of different paranormal events. But this particular event was just like, normally the ghosts that I've met and come across and whatever, and they most of the time don't usually know that you're watching them, and if they do, they don't really care. It's like this one is just like, for some reason, I could feel that it knew that I was watching it, and it's like freaked out, I guess, at being watched. Must have been, I don't know if it was shy or what, but and then it's like really fast back into the ground, like it reversed itself, like again, like the effect would be like in I Dream of Jeannie, where she comes out and then goes back into the bottle. Well, anyways, that's it, and it was interesting experience that I had. Well, hope you enjoyed this. Bye.